Hi there, I'm Marla. My sister mocked me in front of everyone at our high school reunion. She laughed, toasted to my failure, and had no idea my husband was about to expose the $9,000 fraud she'd been hiding for years. But what hurt more than the fraud was the way my family always let her get away with it. Why does a family protect the one doing harm and silence the one being harmed? What time are you listening to this? And where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. I'd really love to know. The lights inside the Charlotte Country Club shimmered off glasses of champagne and gold accents strung across the ceiling. It was the kind of reunion people dress up for, where old crushes show up in tailored suits and the quiet ones pretend they weren't ignored for 4 years. I stood near the back, clutching a glass I hadn't sipped, watching Delaney walk straight into the center of the room like she owned oxygen. She wore emerald heels and confidence that smelled like expensive perfume, sharp, sweet, and choking if you got too close. She took the mic without asking. "I didn't come for friends," she said, lifting her glass high. "I came for bank accounts." Laughter burst around her. Easy, complicit. Someone whistled. Another added, "At least she's honest." Then her eyes locked with mine. "And my sister," she said, smile widening. "She's allergic to ambition. But at least she married someone with a salary." I didn't flinch. I didn't sip. I just looked at Jace. He was already moving, slow and calm, hand in his jacket pocket. "You okay?" he murmured. "I'm used to this," I whispered. But I wasn't, not anymore. 2 years ago, I made a tribute video for our parents' anniversary. Took weeks. I scanned every old photo, found clips from dusty camcorders, and made something that, just for once, centered me too. Delaney waited until it finished playing. She stood up in front of 50 relatives and friends and said, "Wow, that was some Photoshop therapy. Someone's been editing the past again." They laughed. Even our mother smiled like it was clever. I stood in the hallway afterward, alone, pretending to check my phone. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even blinking. I was promising myself something. Never again. Back in the ballroom, Jace had reached the AV booth. He handed the DJ a USB, whispered something. Delaney was still basking in attention when the music cut. A beat of silence. Then Jace spoke, clear and even. "Let's see what she really came for." The screen behind her flickered to life. A video. Her, on a balcony in Miami, laughing with a man in his 60s. He slid a card across the table. She touched his hand. Another cut, her whispering into a camera. "If he wants to pay to feel needed, that's not my fault. I'm just nice." Gasps. Another clip. Delaney counting money captioned, "Mental health refund." The room froze. People started filming. Phones rose like a silent forest. Delaney's hand trembled. Her smile cracked. "That's not what it looks like," she said. I stepped forward. My voice didn't need a mic. For years she spoke for me. Tonight I let the truth do it. And I wasn't done yet. The drive home was quiet. Too quiet for a couple that had just survived social war. Jace's hand stayed firm on the wheel while I stared out the passenger window, counting the blinks of passing streetlights like they were thoughts I didn't say out loud. "She really did that," I finally murmured. "Are you okay?" he asked, not looking at me but slowing slightly, like he already knew the answer. I didn't respond, because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sobbing. I wasn't shouting. But something inside me had gone still, the kind of still you don't notice until the engine shuts off, and you realize there's nothing humming beneath the surface anymore. It wasn't just what Delaney said tonight. It was what no one did. Again. 2 years ago, after the anniversary dinner, I pulled Dad aside. "She embarrassed me," I said. "She humiliated me, and no one said a word." He laughed. "Come on, sweetheart. You know Delaney's sense of humor. She teases everyone." "She didn't tease everyone, she singled me out." Mom chimed in from behind him. "Don't be so sensitive, Marla. It was a joke. You're making it a thing." A joke. That word has never sounded so sterile. I went home, deleted the entire tribute video from my phone. It wasn't worth the storage space. Now, as the house came into view, I felt that same old breath catch in my chest. The one I've trained to hold pain like it's a secret. 2 days later, the phone rang. My parents. Heating broke at the house. Winter storm incoming. Delaney's trying to find someone, Dad said. But she wasn't. She was on Instagram, posting matcha shots and hashtags about staying grounded. I'll call the HVAC company, I said. I didn't ask if Delaney contributed. I already knew the answer. $3,200, paid without a thank you, without a question. When I arrived to sign the work order, Mom met me at the door. "You're a lifesaver," she said, hugging me lightly. "You've always been our rock. Delaney's just softer. You know how she is." Softer. Like fragility was some sacred virtue, and I was the brick wall she needed to bounce off of. "They didn't even ask if I was okay," I whispered in the car afterward. "They asked for my bank routing number." That night, I watched from my parked car as Delaney danced barefoot in the living room to some meditation track. Mom clapped her hands in rhythm. Dad laughed, beer in hand. I wrote a check and left it on the counter. As I walked out, my mother kissed Delaney on the forehead and said, "You always bring light into this house." I didn't say a word. I just drove away and left something behind I hadn't noticed was missing: trust. The house was quiet when I woke up, the kind of silence that stretches like smoke, thin but impossible to ignore. I wandered into the kitchen, phone in hand, intending to check a recipe, maybe the weather. Instead, I saw it. A voice memo from my mom, sent by accident, 39 seconds. I pressed play. Her voice, soft and syrupy, floated through the speaker. She was on the phone with someone, maybe our neighbor, maybe her sister. "Delaney's always been fragile," she said. "You have to wrap her in softness. Marla's different. She's always been the strong one." That word, strong. It didn't land like praise. It hit like concrete. Cold, heavy, final. I didn't cry. I didn't slam the phone down or call her to scream. I just sat at the kitchen table, watching sunlight crawl across the tile. Maybe strength just meant surviving without support. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed again. 2:13 a.m., Delaney. I stared at her name for a full minute before answering. She was crying. "I'm at the ER," she gasped. "Panic attack. My therapist bailed on me. I didn't know who else to call." "Do you need me to come get you?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "No, just, I need money. They won't admit me without insurance. It's $1,800, please." I hesitated. For the first time, I hesitated. Then I opened my banking app and transferred the money. No questions, no follow-up, just sent. "Thank you," she whispered, and the line went dead. The next morning, she posted a muted boomerang on her story. A cup of tea, a candle. Captioned, "Soft mornings after hard nights." But there was no mention of a hospital, no wristband, no medication, just curated peace. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask for receipts, but something in me shifted, slow and seismic. For the first time, I didn't just feel used. I felt awake. I opened my laptop, created a folder, and named it Delaney. I pulled the transfer receipt, screenshotted her Instagram post, and saved it all under a date-stamped label. I wasn't building a case. Not yet. But I was done pretending I didn't need one. The fluorescent lights in my office buzzed faintly as I scrolled through Delaney's latest Instagram post. A photo, as usual. Her smile took up most of the frame. The caption read, "Post-detox glow hits different." Location tagged at a luxury spa near Asheville. She had texted me 4 days ago from an emergency room, crying about her therapist quitting and her panic attacks returning. I sent the money. $1,800, no questions. Now she was glowing, soaking in eucalyptus steam, not a hospital gown in sight. I stared at that smile like it was a weapon. Maybe it always was. The room felt smaller. My coffee had gone cold. I set it aside and opened my credit report, not sure why. Maybe instinct, maybe habit. Either way, something pulsed in me, a warning I'd learned not to ignore. That's when I saw it. A loan. $7,000. Opened 3 weeks ago under my name. Address, my parents' house. The screen blurred for a second. I blinked fast, checked again. It wasn't a mistake. My social security number, my full name, a signature that looked like mine. Only it wasn't. I knew that curve on the M too well. Delaney had forged it once before, back in high school, on a detention slip. I couldn't breathe for a second. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. I printed everything, page after page. Each one felt like paper proof of something I had spent years trying not to believe. She didn't see me as a person. I was a tool, a backup plan, a blank check with a heartbeat. When Jace got home, I didn't greet him at the door. I handed him the documents in silence. He scanned them, his jaw tightening. "We report this, now." "Not yet," I said. "Marla, not yet." He didn't push. He just stood there, still, like he was bracing for a storm that had been moving toward us since before we met. I sat down and whispered, "She needs to know what it feels like to be disarmed by someone who smiles while gutting you." I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I got back up and made copies. Later that night, I opened the safe in our bedroom. Tucked behind old passports and property deeds, I added a new folder. I labeled it in thick black ink, Asset Recovery Knox. Inside went the spa post, the Venmo transfer, the loan documents, my signature, and hers. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was building an audit trail. The phone rang at 12:46 a.m. I stared at it for a few seconds, the blue glow pulsing across the ceiling like a heartbeat I didn't trust. "Delaney." I answered without speaking. I need to ask you something," she whispered. Her voice was frayed, but not with regret, just panic. "If I go to jail, would you still forgive me?" That was it. No confession, no explanation, no apology, just a question wrapped in fear, handed to me like a gift I didn't ask for. "You're not scared of what you've done," I said slowly. "You're scared it's catching up." She didn't deny it. She didn't say anything. The line crackled for a few seconds, then she hung up. The next morning I brewed coffee I didn't drink. I sat down at my desk and logged into my credit report. Part curiosity, part dread. There it was, a new card, opened 2 weeks ago, limit maxed, mailing address, my parents' home. I didn't blink, I didn't gasp. I opened a new folder, labeled it Fireproof, and printed everything. This wasn't borrowing, it was theft. This wasn't about being the strong sister anymore. It was about being the smart one. Jace came home that evening, dropped his keys in the bowl and looked at me, then at the stack of papers on the table. "What happened now?" I handed him the credit statements. No words. He scanned, flipped, paused. "You're reporting this." "I know," I said. "One more time, and I'll take her down myself." He didn't smile. He just nodded, like he'd been waiting for me to catch up to myself. Later, while folding laundry in silence, I heard the doorbell. A small white envelope rested on the mat. My mother's handwriting. Inside was a thank you card. Gold trim, pastel flowers. "Thank you for helping with the furnace. It meant so much." But it wasn't signed to me. It was addressed to Delaney. Of course it was. It didn't matter what I gave. It only mattered what she took credit for. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I took the card, filed it under Fireproof, and poured myself the coffee I'd let go cold. We met at a cafe Delaney liked. White marble counters, overpriced tea, a place with more lighting than soul. I had emailed her the night before, confronting her about the card. She asked to talk in person. She arrived 10 minutes late, sunglasses still on, sipping a drink she didn't pay for. "I don't understand why you're upset," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "It was just a backup account. For emergencies. We all share." I blinked. Once, slowly. "Delaney, you forged my name." She waved it off, like I had brought up a scratch on a rental car. "You're overthinking it. It's not that serious." She didn't even pretend to be sorry. That hurt more than the debt. I didn't respond. I stood up before my hands could shake and left the cafe without touching my drink. That night, Jace found me at the dining table, surrounded by printouts. He sat across from me and waited. "She called it a shared account," I said. My voice was steady. "A shared emergency fund." He said nothing. Instead, he rose, walked to the hall closet, and pulled out a folder I'd never seen before. "Knox Evidence," the label read. Inside were timelines, screenshots, PDFs. Some were mine, others were new, organized in chronological order. "I've been tracking everything since she used your name for that vet bill 2 years ago. You didn't tell me." "Because you weren't ready to act," he said. "But now, we're not waiting for her next move anymore." I looked through the pages, line after line of proof she thought would stay buried under blood ties. "We'll file it all," he continued. "We'll back it up. Cloud, USB, hard copy. Whatever happens next will be ahead of her. He wasn't just defending me, he was showing me how to defend myself. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I felt armed. That night, I drafted an email to a friend from law school, a civil litigation specialist. I organized folders, tagged files, wrote down dates. My hands didn't shake this time. This isn't about revenge. This is about release. Before we went to bed, Jace plugged a USB drive into the TV. A still frame appeared on screen. Delaney in a boutique, laughing, holding a shopping bag and a man's wallet. "If she wants a war of stories," I whispered, "I'll make sure mine comes with evidence." The HR director didn't look me in the eye. She folded her hands over a manila folder like it contained something sharp. "We received a letter," she said, "allegedly from you." My stomach didn't sink, it braced. It criticized the public education system, said we should be focusing on students who return ROI. It was condescending, cold. It wasn't me, I figured. She slid the folder toward me. "But the school board is asking questions. The email was sent from your account. Or at least your name." I opened the file. It was my full signature, my tone, but off. Just enough to sting. They traced it to an IP address, my parents' house. I didn't speak for the rest of the meeting, because if I did, I might have screamed. When I got home, Jace was at the stove. I walked straight to the dining table, dropped my bag, and sat. He turned the burner off and sat across from me. "What happened?" "They forged an email to the school board, signed it as me." He didn't ask who. He didn't need to. He exhaled, then stood up, walked to the hallway closet, and returned with a flash drive. I didn't want to bring this up, not unless I had to. He plugged it into my laptop. A folder popped open. Sister Doctrine. Documents, photos, emails, bank notices, timelines. "I dealt with this before," he said quietly. "My sister. She did the same thing. She used our parents' info, opened 2 credit cards, blamed me when the collectors showed up. I had to go to court to clear it. She's the reason I haven't talked to my family in 8 years. I blinked slowly. "She's Delaney," I said. He nodded, and I saw the signs. "I stayed quiet because I didn't want to hurt you. But this isn't a family issue anymore. This is a pattern, and you're next in its path if we don't stop it now." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 2 histories hanging between us. "I'm not a victim," I said. "No," he replied. "You're a witness. Build your case." We spent the next hour consolidating everything. USB backups, printed statements, notations. At one point I looked at him, really looked. "We didn't just love each other," I whispered. "We recognized the same battlefield in each other's eyes." The next morning I drafted a formal memo to HR, attached evidence, listed dates, suggested IT investigate the originating IP. I didn't ask for protection, I demanded clarification. If silence was survival, then this time, I'd choose truth, even if it hurt. Monday morning started with a knock. Not a phone call, not an email, a knock. A courier in a navy jacket handed me a certified envelope. My name, my office address, no sender. Inside, a letter from our compliance board. They were opening an internal ethics review. Allegations tied to an email I'd already proven I hadn't written. The same one that traced back to my parents' IP. The same lie Delaney thought would be clever enough to stain my name, but vague enough to protect hers. I didn't panic. I opened my bottom drawer, pulled out a folder, and placed it on the desk. Inside were metadata printouts, timestamps, IP traces. Every single pixel of proof. It wasn't fear that hit me. It was focus. At lunch, I met with my attorney. She looked like a woman who didn't waste lipstick on small cases, and I loved her for it. "There's more," I told her. She lifted an eyebrow. I handed over another envelope. This one was from Delaney's lawyer, a $50,000 defamation suit. Character assassination, they called it. They attached screenshots of the reunion footage, of her being exposed, of her brand collapsing on social media. "She weaponized the truth I exposed," I said quietly, like it was the lie that broke her. The attorney nodded. "Good thing truth has teeth." By that evening, we responded. 36 folders, labeled, dated, cross-referenced, 4 witness statements, 2 notarized, 2 video files, One of her receiving money, another of her bragging about manipulation. One affidavit, mine, sworn, filed. I didn't raise my voice. I raised my proof. We didn't hear back. Not that day, not the next. 3 days later, Jace and I sat at the dinner table eating reheated soup. The silence between us wasn't tension. It was the calm after a targeted storm. Then my phone buzzed. One line. Case withdrawn, no settlement. She disappeared. I stared at the message, not in victory, but in release. You okay? Jace asked. I nodded. She wanted a stage. I gave her a spotlight. He smiled, barely. And what did you get? I looked out the window, at nothing in particular. Quiet, I said. Real quiet. You don't win these wars by shouting louder. You win them by being ready when the noise stops. 2 weeks passed, and no one called. Not Delaney, not my parents. The silence wasn't peace, but it was an answer. Each morning, I checked my phone with a kind of muscle memory that no longer served me, just habit, hoping for a line that said, I'm sorry, or even, let's talk. Instead, nothing. Only the soft echo of space where accountability might have lived. Jace and I sat on the porch one afternoon, sharing a bowl of grapes and not saying much. He handed me his phone. You should see this. Delaney's website, gone. Her Instagram account, deleted. The podcast, the courses, the branding, scrubbed clean, like she never existed in that version of herself at all. Somewhere online, someone had clipped the reunion video and reposted it on TikTok. It went quietly viral. The caption read, "She played the game, she lost the house." I didn't feel triumphant. I just exhaled. Justice felt nothing like revenge. It felt like a heavy coat being taken off after standing in the rain too long. The weight was real. But the relief came in the release. A few days later, an envelope showed up at our doorstep. No return address. Inside was a box of old photos. Me, Delaney, our parents, childhood birthdays, first days of school. But no note, no message, just fragments of a past none of us ever talked about honestly. I sorted through the pictures slowly, one by one. There was Delaney, smiling center frame. And there I was, slightly out of focus, holding the camcorder. They chose silence again, I said to Jace. But this time, I added, I didn't meet it with hope. Later that week, Nadine sent me a message. The girl Delaney had tormented back in 10th grade. I watched what you did. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You stood up for all of us. It hit deeper than I expected. The quietest words often do. Jace and I packed bags and left town that weekend. No agenda. No need to talk about the folder we'd finally locked away in the safe. It was labeled Knox. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a wound. It felt like a record. Filed. Closed. Forgiveness wasn't forgetting. It was remembering without reopening. Not every ending is clean. But this one, it was mine. Some names I deleted. Some wounds I filed. But me? I walked out whole. Sometimes survival teaches you silence. But healing teaches you boundaries. If there's one thing I've learned from everything you've just heard, it's this. Not everyone who shares your blood shares your best interest. And walking away doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. I used to think being the strong one meant never saying no, never speaking up. But real strength? It's knowing when enough is enough. When silence turns into complicity. And when forgiveness means choosing peace, not proximity. Maybe you've had a Delaney in your life. Maybe you've been the Marla, holding everything together while no one even noticed you were cracking. If so, I hope you remember this. You don't owe anyone your silence, your savings, or your soul. So now I turn the question to you. Have you ever had to draw the line with someone you love? What did it cost you, and was it worth it? If this story touched you, leave a comment with a 1, or tell me where you're watching from. If it didn't resonate with you, tell me why. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want more stories that feel like truth wrapped in heartache and hope, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You're not alone, and sometimes, the quietest victories are the loudest truths.